lots of different recipes that you can use these sea vegetables in. So today we're just going to show you a sampling. And pretty much anything where you use vegetables, you can add a sea vegetable into your dish. So just think of it like that. There's some situations where you can actually accent and make it a feature of your dish. And so that's a possibility too. So we're going to talk about all of that today. So let's see, Brian, how are we doing? Let me get in your camera view. How's that? Is that good? Good position right here?
That's good.
Okay, so here's your sea vegetables just right off of the plants. So let's start here with the sea blite, the sueda. And so if you're going to harvest this, you can, actually the stem on this one is very young, so you could probably eat some of that. It's, how old are our plants? About 6 or 7 weeks old now, right?
All that time is 7 weeks.
Are about 7 weeks old. And so this was cut, you'll see the plants when we go out into the field. But the best way to harvest this is to just take off the leaves here. And so it's really a simple processing. And you can get a little bit of the stem because it's still tender. But what's nice about this is it just looks very pretty when it's off of the stem. And so it's easy to add to your dish. So that's the sea blite. And then here's your sea purslane. It has this lovely stem. It looks very pretty, and I think you sell it just like this, don't you, Kevin? So this is the one where you really can't eat the stem. The stem is quite woody. So the harvesting for this actually has a little flower bud on it. Can you see that? So the flower buds you can eat. And so for this one, you would take off the leaves, and you can take off chunks of leaves too, like where they're coming out of the nodes here. So you can use that whole piece. Like for instance, this one here, this whole piece here is edible. So then this is what you're looking at as product that you would put into your dishes. I like to add this to soups. I use it in soups, I use it in stir fries. You can add it to pasta dishes. There's so much versatility in this. You can add it to salads. So it's really a very nice dish, or a very nice sea vegetable plant. Okay, and then over here is our salt wort. Also, when this is young, you can eat the tender stem. This one's actually also, see it breaks. As long as it breaks, you know that you'll be able to eat it. And so this also is very similar to the sea blite in terms of the way you would harvest it. You could harvest that whole piece there. You could take off the little leaves. And actually, this one's a fairly easy one to strip, where you just go down the plant, and you just pull it right off like that. I'll do that one more time. You just hold it, rotate down the plant. We got really good at this because we had to harvest so much to do the studies for biomass. So we thought, like, how's the easiest way to get it off the stem? But this is quite a lovely plant, so it's lovely to work with. So there you go, really easy to do. Actually, let's see if we can do the same for the, you can do the same for the sea blite as well. So that's an easy way to get it off, and then you have your empty stem. I should have thought about that last night when I was preparing for it. I was picking each piece off. But there you go. So there you can see very similar. There's the the salt wort on this side, and the sea blite. Okay, so those are those two. So it's back there. And then this is our Salicornia. And what Ikuko showed you earlier, that was about how tall they were in the planter when we cut them. So they were only, how old would that have taken to get to this size, Ikuko?
That is from the outside from
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so that was from seed to about this size in 2 months. And then once you have this at this size, then you can keep trimming them. And that's what Heron Farm does. They have planters inside, and they cut them at about this size, and just before they start branching. And you'll see when we go on the tour, you'll see some that are very straight still and some that have started to branch. And so typically the cut is around like this. So very easy. You use the whole piece. There's no processing for this when they're young. You use everything there. All right, so let's get started on the dishes. And let's make the cucumber, tomato, sea blite, lemon, and olive oil. That's it. That's what it's going to be. So Ikuko, I'll have you do the mixing over here. And here's mixing utensils. We're going to work over here. Cucumber.
Not sea cucumber.
Not sea cucumber. Right. Not sea cucumber. Cucumber. We'll go ahead and put that in. And a little bit more. Okay. And then tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. It could be any kind of tomatoes. Those in. Chico's going to mix that up. And I thought we might add a little bit of avocado to this. But before we do that, let's see. Here we go. So this recipe is going to have the sea blite added to it. If we'd had enough Wart, I probably would have used both of them because that's typically how I made the salad is with the Wart. But this will be a nice addition. This is very young. It's only about 6 or 7 weeks old, so I think it'll be a really nice addition here. I'm going to add this in. I don't know how much we're going to add yet. We'll just have to see what it looks like when it's all mixed. And nice having you up here helping. Okay. I'm going to start adding the lemon juice to it, okay? So we're going to add some lemon juice. Ikuko suggesting a little bit more of our sea blite. How's that looking? We're going to add some olive oil. Okay. Any chefs in the audience have any suggestions?
No salt.
No salt, exactly.
If you add feta, it'd be a Greek sea salad.
So you could also add parsley or cilantro to it if you preferred. You could add a little bit of pepper. But I didn't bring any of those ingredients with me.
Are all of these slightly salty, or do they not have their own salt flavor to them? The sea blite, the Salicornia.
They all have salt in them, for sure, and they all taste slightly different, but they all are salty. So we're going to use the sea blite only in this with no additional salt.
Remember, the salt content of the plant is going to be dependent on the salt content of the system they're growing in.
The salt content of the plant is going to be dependent on the system that it's grown in. So right now, we have quite salty water. I think it's getting close to 40. So if you come up, all of these have been washed. So if you decide to taste them on their own, when we start having some samples. Yesterday I was tasting them and they were like, oh my God, these are so salty. You know, like, can I wanted to be careful when I made the dishes today, knowing that was the way. Okay, I'm going to add one more avocado. And Ikuko, what do you think about the amount of sea blite that we have in there? Okay. So any questions about the particular dish that we're making?
I can't wait to taste it.
Okay, let's finish up this one avocado. I might do a little taste just to make sure we have enough lemon in there, because the lemon goes so nice in this dish with the saltiness of the sea vegetable. Okay, that should be good. All right. Okay, let me just take a little taste. I'll let you know what it tastes like.
You're cruel.
I know. Okay, so on my spoon here, I have a piece of tomato, the cucumber, and actually quite a big piece of sea blite. Maybe I'll take half of it off there because I know how salty it is. All right. Yeah, it's perfect. You could actually use just a little bit more olive oil.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that dish is finished. Now we're going to move on to making a quinoa salad. So we originally had thought about maybe making a pasta salad, but in the long run, I settled on quinoa because I thought it was an easier dish to be able to mix together. Whereas the pasta's long, and it was, you know, we wanted you all to have a taste, but you could easily stir fry and put a dish together with the pasta. It'd be really quite nice. Okay. That's tasty. You guys are going to like that. All right, so next up is the quinoa. And Ikuko, I'll start giving you the ingredients again for that. So I made a pretty big batch of quinoa, and I made it so that it would be slightly on the dry side, so it didn't have, instead of 2 cups of water to 1 cup of quinoa, I used 1.5 cups of water to 1 cup, and that makes it a little drier so that you can mix it and doesn't get so sticky. And then once it cooled down, I already added the lemon, and I already added the olive oil. You might need to add a little more, but it's already been prepared with those in it. So it's nice and fluffy that way. You can see how fluffy it is when you don't add too much water when you cook the quinoa. The quinoa also, if you cook quinoa before, you rinse it a couple of times before you actually cook it.
Why do you rinse it?
It has, well, first of all, it's a little dirty. But Grace, it also has something else that's with the quinoa, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's just, it takes off some of the bitterness that comes with it. There's actual, I'd have to look it up, but there is a reason to rinse it before you cook it.
And I think it's like supposed to protect the seed from
That's right, yeah.
whatever, nature has its own thing. Okay, I'm gonna have this something to me that I think is gonna be able to eat me and then I'm very proud.
A lot here. Okay, so with this dish being that it's going to be a quinoa salad, almost like a tabbouleh salad. Tabbouleh is made with a grain, so I don't much like the bulgur as much as I like the quinoa. So I'm using the same sort of recipe that you would use. So, and I know some of you might not like cilantro, so I went ahead and did parsley instead. But it's nice with a mixture of parsley and cilantro, or just cilantro or just parsley. In this case, it's just going to be parsley. I have another spoon here if you'd like to use both of them. That helps. We'll go ahead and add some tomatoes in with this too. You can also add cucumber, but since we made a cucumber salad, I didn't prepare the cucumber for that. And then these are some local scallions. So I cut up a little bit of scallion, and we're going to add that into it. See how that goes. And I don't typically add this, but I thought the red pepper looked so delicious. So I decided a sweet red pepper might add some nice texture and some nice flavor and color to that. Oh, it's looking quite nice, isn't it? You think it could have some more tomato? A little more tomato. These are some local tomatoes here. Wonderful.
Did you get the scallions and the tomatoes from the same place locally?
Yeah, we got them local. Everything is local, and I know that Bertie Hogan Farm has some wonderful vegetables. I'm putting a little pitch in for you, Doyle. Oh, actually, you know what? We had some leftover cucumbers. I'm just going to add a little bit. Okay, that's good. Okay, so now for the actual sea vegetable itself. All right, so for this dish, we're going to use Salicornia. And I actually blanched it for 30 seconds. I was hoping to draw out some of the salt. But it also, I don't know if you can see, but it also brightens up the sea vegetable if you blanch it. In fact, any kind of blanching I found will brighten up the vegetable. So brought the pot to a boil and then put in a small amount at a time for 30 seconds and then took it out immediately, laid it out so it would cool quickly and stop cooking, and put it in a freezer actually just to cool it down, or you could put it on ice. And so I was debating whether or not we needed to cut this or not, so I'm going to ask Ikuko what she thinks. These are full Salicornia. Do you think it needs to be cut or just stir it in?
Maybe cut it. Let's see.
Maybe cut it. Looks a little long. Okay. So let's see, Brian, can you see us over here? Okay. So we're going to take this Salicornia, lay it out on here, like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and just make a few cuts in it. Look good? Okay. I'll put that in and let Ikuko go ahead and mix it in. So once again, there's no salt in this dish, so we're going to rely on the salty Salicornia to give us the flavor. Don't want to add too much in, but I think we could add a little more, don't you? All right, let me do a taste test. Okay, so I got a couple pieces of Salicornia in there, so I'll know if it's too salty or not. Or I suppose it's too late now because we've already added it in there. I think it's just perfect. In terms of enough salt, because I knew how salty the Salicornia was when we first started. So it looks like every bite's going to get 1 or 2 pieces, so it seems like it's just the right amount. I can already taste the lemon from yesterday when I put it in there, but I can also tell that it probably needs just a little bit more olive oil as well. Even though I added some last night, I think it could use a little bit more. Okay. So you wouldn't have to have blanched it. You could have put the Salicornia straight in there. The other thing you could have done is made your quinoa salad and then lay some pieces of Salicornia on there so it looked pretty as a garnish, but as an edible garnish. That would have been the other way to do it. Okay, so we have another dish that was pre-made by Ikuko. And Ikuko, do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to talk about it?
Sure.
We'll bring it over here, and we'll do it together. Beautiful. I'll bring it over here. I think if you speak loud enough, my mic will catch it.
So what I prepared is pickled sea vegetables. So I tried quite many different dishes at home with sea vegetables. This is supported by my family to serve. And this is a very simple recipe this time. I usually use, in addition to vinegar, I usually use some spice, but this is simply apple cider vinegar and all 4 species of sea vegetables mixed in it. And I prepared it on Tuesday, so it's 2 days.
2 days
Right now?
ago. So it's really nice. Ikuko brought into my office one day sea purslane in 3 or 4 different vinegars, and she had me taste them all. And I really like the apple cider vinegar, but you can use rice vinegar. You could use regular white vinegar. And was there another one? Just those 3 kinds. Yeah, the apple cider, and then you could add different spices if you like to pickle with different spices. You could add garlics to it. You could add different herbs to it. So you have a lot of variety that you could work with. But this one, as Ikuko said, is very simple, just with the apple cider vinegar for 48 hours. It would probably be edible after 24 too, right? Yeah, yeah.
One thing, this time is the plants a little saltier than it used to be, but so it's pickled quite salty.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you wouldn't want to have a whole lot of it at one
Right.
time. So while we get better prepared to be able to make some samples for you all, let's have some questions, let's have some dialogue while we're doing that. Alex?
Did it work to take some of the salt out when you blanched it?
I didn't find a big difference in the blanching. Do you think I should have blanched it longer?
No, I think it was good. I don't
No, I just wonder, I mean, usually like, what, 10 to 30 seconds for blanching?
Yeah.
Paul?
So I found soaking it in fresh water overnight before blanching.
Oh, soaking it in fresh water overnight before using,
Before blanching.
before blanching. That's a really good idea.
You could also add a little sugar and that might take some of the salt out.
A little sugar?
Yeah.
Okay,
When
good.
you pickle, sometimes you do that as well.
Okay, that's a great suggestion. Okay.
I was just gonna explain with soak in fresh water. You do that with feta also if you want it a little bit less salty.
Okay, those are really wonderful suggestions. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, good.
Shelf life. How long will it stay in the refrigerator before turning bad?
So I've kept the sea vegetables intentionally in the fridge to try to answer that question myself, and it looked like even after 3 to 4 weeks, they're holding up. So the one important thing is that when after you harvest them, you really want to cool them right away, so that they keep their, what's it called?
Turgor.
Their turgor? Yeah, so they keep firm. And so that's an important part of processing and getting it right and cool right away. But really, I think you're looking at like about at least a 2-week shelf life with no problem at all.
That's what we find with purslane, about a 2 week.
About 2 weeks?
Good quality.
Good quality, yeah. Yeah, and do you refrigerate it right after?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's an important part of it as well. Okay.
That overnight soak in the water too is in the refrigerator, not sitting down on the counter.
Okay, right. Okay, move these out of the way here.
Are there any hot dishes that you've made, like cooked?
Everything
Yeah.
is good.
So Shirley asked if there's any cooked dishes. So as Paul mentioned, sauteing with olive oil and garlic or butter and garlic with any of these are really delicious as its own side dish. I've also added it to soups like miso soups or any kinds of stews and soups like that. I've stir-fried with them, and then the pasta dishes. So Alex, can you think of anything that comes to mind?
Hot dishes?
Hot dishes with sea vegetables that you
No,
would,
I'm thinking all like ceviche. There's something wrong.
eating it raw.
I think it'd be good in like a pesto too.
A pesto, ooh, that actually, that sounds great. Any other ideas? Grace, do you have any ideas? Just experiment, she said. Okay,
Have you cooked them like either in or on top of breads at all?
oh, no, that would be nice.
Maybe I should like with a different.
Yeah, like you could use it as a spread on, or I mean, as part of your toaster. Like on top of avocado toast or something like that, that would be good. And actually with oysters, I've seen Salicornia on, like a couple pieces, small pieces on top of an oyster would be really nice as well.
I was curious about making that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the names for Salicornia is sea asparagus, just, it has a texture that's similar to asparagus when it's cooked. But if you're gonna do that where that's the primary portion of the dish, not in addition to another dish, you really gotta make sure you get a lot of the salt out of it, salty,
Yeah.
because it can be quite salty.
If you're growing this commercially, what's the market bearing as far as price per ounce or?
So the prices, I've seen it for sale for, gosh, I'm trying to think what here in farms, I think it's like $5 to $8 an ounce, which is almost like an herb, like if when you see the herbs sold like that. But I would imagine, I'm trying to think, I think $22 a pound is something that I've seen it sold for as well. If you do a little searching on the internet, you can see some of the price ranges that it could be sold for. So Jill, do you want to come help with the servings? So what we were going to do is put a little bit of each of the dishes, the 3 dishes here. And then we could also, let's see, what time is it now? Somebody have the, can you tell me what time it is? 11:52. So we're, yeah, so maybe like 10 or 15 minutes we'll spend on this, and then we'll have a little break and go have the group photo, and then we'll go on the tour. So we're behind a little bit. We're behind about 10 or 15 minutes, but not too bad. We're thinking what we'll do is maybe make the dishes along here, you guys, and then we'll put everything down so you can see it, and you won't have to come up here and just kind of meander a little bit and things like that. Do you think that will work, Joe? Do you want to, we can serve from here?
Yeah, I
Okay.
understand. Joe must have come by.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, so Ikuko, do you want to start putting some